Okay, let's go. It's a Friday. I'm going to do a bunch of videos probably this weekend, and let's do an interesting one. If you're here for a review and unboxing, that's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about bass. I'm talking about energy. I'm talking about tactile. I'm talking about transfer of energy from one thing to another, basically. Force feedback, tactile sensation. The sets that I'm going to be using today are the Camper, obviously because of I'm hyping it, and the Fat Frequency Grand Maestro, because the first take would be that obviously that DD having much bass emphasized tune set is going to give you more of that sensation. You'd be wrong, and I'm going to be super specific with you today. I've already written this out. Fat Frequency 53, Camper 31 or 32, the Storm is 56, which I'm not going to pull out today because it's not really relevant to this video. If you have OCD, you should really love this, and tell me if you want to see more videos like this. Because this is what I do when people aren't paying attention, because I don't think they want to see this on a video. I always line up sets, and I always line them up at 440 hertz. I do this because that's a part of the frequency response that is very rarely messed with. If it's elevated by bass, that's just a bassy set, and I don't know why you'd really be comparing that. That should be a stable part of the mid-range. It shouldn't be elevated on the right or the left. That means it's a good place to line up two sets. And then things that are boosted in the low end or falling off on the top end, you're going to be able to hear those if you listen to them on the same listening level, the same amplitude, the same volume level, the same amount of gain and energy put into those sets. Now, to do that, you've got to measure how much energy you actually need. So I've got an app right here that I use, and it's measuring me right now talking, and it's going to get woo, a little bit loud. Now, gets quieter because my computer and the ambient sound of this room is about 45. The 44 hertz, 440 hertz track is available on a site called Media College that I can link to you guys if you'd like. Now this is the set in question. This is one of two sets. This is the Camper, and that is the file right there, and it's on a excuse me, loop right now. I'm going to push this in. I think it should. Let me go ahead and check this device. It's already set there. Let's turn this up. Let's turn this to where the Fat Frequency is going to go to 77, but we'll do the Camper first. And that's max right there. That's 90. That's way too much. So while you're watching this live, let's go ahead and put this on. What I say in all my video intros is my listening level. And we'll get this down to, let's say 31. And now using that DAP and that mic, which is a 711 coupler, and if you're thinking, well, that has some deficiencies, that's true. But those deficiencies will be applied to all sets. There will be no variation in the chain other than the IEMs, not the measurement software, not the mic that is measuring. So any inefficiencies, deficiencies with that mic will be applied to all. So this config right now is saying that I need about 31 steps to get to 77 dB. Okay, now I'm going to take this set out. I'm going to unplug it, which is going to automatically stop that track. I'm going to take the tip off because I want to use the same tip. I'm going to take the Camper and I'm going to put it over here. Now I'm going to take this set that's completely in frame. I feel like a magician. I don't want something to feel like it's out of the frame. I'm going to go ahead and put that tip on there. And then I'm going to insert this into the coupler. And then I'm going to take the 4.4. I'm going to insert it. And I haven't turned it on yet because when I pull out the plug, it stops it. So let's turn it on. That's around 60. That's well below measuring and lining it up with the Camper if we were to measure these and compare them using this source. So I have to turn it up. And according to previous measurements, it's at 53. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it up, up, which is a lot. The storm is actually harder, and then we stopped there. And we're at 77. Now what I've done is, now if I want to compare the fat frequency and the camper, it would be very, very wise of me to give them the same amount of input, the same amount of energy. And to do that with this particular device requires me to go to 53 steps to get to 77. If I want to do that with the camper, I do that at 20 steps lower, pretty much. Yeah, 21 steps lower, actually. So, but that's them playing at the same amount of energy at 440 hertz. One isn't quieter than the other. They should be at the same loudness level, actually. And again, the only variable in this is the mic, but the variabilities and the inefficiencies would be applied to both of these sets. So let's say that this is off by 2 dB. Well, that would apply to both of these. So it would still be the same gap. Now I'm going to go ahead and unplug this because we're done with that. So that's how to line up two sets. Do it at an area where it's most likely not going to be cut or boosted, which really 440 shouldn't be either one of those things. And line them up and make sure that you are comparing apples to apples. Now let's talk about the reason for this actual video. Bass is very interesting. Bass is creating energy in two main ways, and they're obvious, but I think one is slightly undersold. One of the ways is the displacement of the volume of air in any given space, whether it's a room or an automobile. An automobile in particular, because you can seal it up a lot. That pushing and pulling of the volume of air, if you have a car audio system, I have in all of my cars in Japan and in Hawaii, are the videos you see on YouTube of somebody sticking their head in the window and then their hair just blowing out like a super, super blow dryer because the bass is pulling in. Remember, that driver in that video that's blowing that person's hair is probably around 35 to 65 hertz. So it's actually going in and out, but it's doing it so fast that the air that's going out is kind of semi-continuous. It's actually in microseconds coming in and out, but you're seeing it shoot out in the videos. That's a separate thing from what I'm talking about today. The other way that energy is created or felt or experienced is these secure points, these fastening mounting points on this driver or any driver, and it's attached to a ported subwoofer box. For example, when these dynamic drivers, let's say 3 15-inch from Digital Designs, are slamming their maximum, that box, if you were to try to hold it, would numb your hands so fast that you wouldn't actually be able to hold it. It should be supremely heavy. I mean, that would be a couple 100 pounds of the box, plus 3 70-pound drivers, 15-inch Digital Designs. That's a lot of weight. But if you were so strong to be able to do that, the vibration that you would be getting through your hand constantly would be something like a jackhammer. If you've ever had a really powerful car audio system, what happens is the energy transfers through the chassis and the steering column, and it comes up the steering column to the steering wheel. And after about 30 minutes to an hour, your hands start to get so numb that you can't hold the wheel anymore because you can't feel your hands. They've been numbed out. If you've ever used a power hammer, a jackhammer, to break materials like concrete, that can be very fatiguing. You can lose the articulation in your hands and fingers. You're unable to really move them in the way your brain is telling them because your muscles there's no muscles in the hand. The tendons are just overstimulated and shocked. That kind of energy goes through your car steering column. That's the power of bass. That's not the air volume changing in the car that's doing anything to that. That is the energy coming from the mounts past to the enclosure, past to whatever part is touching the enclosure, if it's facing up or if it's facing back. That 2.1 by 1.8 meter surface that's just sitting on your SUV's back area is transferring a massive amount of energy through your entire vehicle and will go all the way through the steering column to the steering wheel and stimulate enough so that you start to drive with your wrists because you can't hold with 5 fingers anymore. A lot of people don't know what I'm talking about now, but just a few will. So that's the power of the transfer of bass, and it's an amazing thing. It's absolutely dangerous, actually. The air and the air blow dryer effect that you see on YouTube, nobody's going to have a car accident because of that. Somebody losing control of their vehicle because they can't really grip the wheel anymore, that would be a legit problem, and I have, and many others have probably had to just turn down the system or off for a while. Let your hands recover. This is a real phenomenon. Now, this is all to say that the energy transfer through the camper shell, because it's a thin shell perhaps, because a lot of it actually contacts the inside of my ear, is greater than the fat frequency Grand Maestro. The energy passed through this shell, which is heavier and denser, is not as much as the energy passed through the shell of the camper. So if I listen to Jay-Z, Can I Get a FU, E40, F 'em, Lil Wayne, Rah, Bone Crusher, Grip in the Grain remix, just a number of songs. This sounds like the more potent bass set with no dynamic driver than this famous bass set. Doesn't make any sense, really. I'm a known bass head. Check my channel, check by. You can adjust from most popular to oldest. Go from oldest and flip and see how I started. It's like crack, chasing the bass hit. And I found it with this set, and it happens to be a set that people are talking about, but they're not talking about its ability because I don't think they listen to a library like mine. They don't listen to Jay-Z or E40 or Lil Wayne. They do listen to Rush or Gordon Lightfoot or Stevie Ray Vaughan or Miles Davis, or they do listen to that stuff. And I agree that it's a very resolving set, comparable with a lot of expensive sets that are on my desk. In addition to that, it hits harder than what I thought was one of the harder hitting sets. And I just lined up 2 of them right in front of you, and when I evaluate and compare them, there's none. If I turn this set up to 53, and then I turn the camper to 31, it's not even close. If I increase the Grand Maestro by 20 steps to 73, it's still not very loud because it's very hard to drive, and the bass still doesn't vibe like the other set. And I talked to somebody yesterday, and they said they can get a feeling from their Empire Ears Raven, but they got to turn it up and it gets really loud. You don't have to do that because this is an easy set to drive. I'm not selling this set anymore. That's for other videos. I'm explaining to people why I'm enthusiastic about this set. I can feel the bass. I don't know why I can feel it. Again, it's probably the shell combined with, beyond that I have no idea. I don't need to turn this up loud at all. I can drive this off of virtually anything, and I can get that tactile feedback from tracks that wouldn't do it with very famous bass headsets. And that's the end of this video. But this is what I do when I'm comparing sets, and when I definitely want to say, okay, hold up a second, wait, there's something that doesn't make sense. And this definitely made no sense whatsoever. Who actually would compare a camper with all Sonian, no dynamic driver, with a famous heavy hitter? I would, but I'd have to be specific. And I just was. And I told you the tracks, and I told you the DAP, I told you the file, and I told you the measurements of how I lined them up and what that lineup actually is. Your DAP would be different, but you would probably have the same difference, range, and it would probably, it actually would absolutely have to be the Storm as the hardest to drive, the Fat Frequency would be next, and then very far behind would be the Camper. Doesn't matter what your source is. Whatever DAP you have, it's just going to be different steps. The difference between the ranking would be the same. The hardest to drive is the Storm, and the easiest is the Camper. That might be another part of it. It's easy to drive, it's got a thin shell. Beyond that, I don't know. But that's it, and I'll probably upload a unboxing like in an hour after this, but I want this to be on record because in a couple of years people are going to come and say, I saw this, I thought you were full of it. I got this set now, or it'll come. It's been with previous sets. It'll be with this set. I just want this to be on record. And I'm out.